Hi, my name is Megan and I'm a workaholic. I am your best freelancing friend and I'm here to help you grow your business in a healthy and sustainable way, and that's what we're here to talk about. You need to get out of hustle culture, which I talk about in this video, and build a business that you own, not one that owns you. This is important, so listen up. First, I want you to tell me if this sounds familiar. You're broke. So you work more to make more money, and it works. So in your mind, you go, oh, okay, so the way to make more money is to work more. So you do. Before you know it, your life consists of waking up, working all day, and then going to sleep. And that's it. Sound familiar? If it does, drop me a comment. If this sounds like you, you are not alone. Let me tell you a quick story. Once upon a time, I almost worked myself to death. The end. There was a point back in my 20s. Ugh, how sad is it that I'm old enough that I can say back in my 20s? Anyway, back in my 20s, dear God Almighty. I had recently moved to Las Vegas and I was working full-time as a performer, and I also had a full-time desk job. I enjoyed both, and also only one of those jobs wouldn't have been enough to pay my bills. How sad is that you could work full-time and still not have enough money to survive? I was sleeping about 4 hours a night and this was my norm. Oh, I was also freelance writing on the side. I forgot that one. I was running on autopilot and I didn't even realize it. Let's keep going. Fast forward a few years and I'm starting to build up my freelancing business. There was a period of time when I would be waking up at 5 a.m. That's because I was also writing for Bustle at the time, and I'm Vegas, they're New York, so they're 3 hours ahead of me. So my shift started at 5 a.m. for me. I would do that until about lunchtime. I would go to the gym because this was also when I was training as a competitive Olympic weightlifter, and I would lift for a couple of hours, which is incredibly taxing on your body. I would go back home, work until bedtime, go to sleep, get up and do it all over again. Mind you, I was also engaged at the time, and my then fiance was also starting his own business. I was completely trapped by work as a result of my own choices. I'm not trying to say I was a victim, I was not. But I had buried myself in work and I put myself in a position where I didn't know how to get out. At the time, cutting back on work would mean cutting back on money, and that was something that back then I couldn't afford. And that's why we're here today. This is by far the biggest mistake I've made in growing my business, and if I can help you to avoid this, it's a good day. If you're anything like me, I am a classic, cliche, stereotypical overachiever. If you can relate, then you know that you don't do anything halfway. If you're going to do it and you're going to commit to it, you are going to be the absolute best at it. I've been this way my whole life. I graduated high school with a 4.2 GPA. I finished college a semester early. I am that person. And if you're like that, then those traits are going to carry over into your freelancing business. Now, I want to be clear here. Having a strong work ethic is great. You have to have it because in the beginning, you're only going to get your foot in the door if you're willing to work really hard. However, if you're like me and you rely solely on working like a dog, you will burn out. I'm at a place right now these days where my body and my mind are completely taxed. They're exhausted. I am trying to undo years and years of damage, which is going to take years and years to fix. My poor adrenal glands are probably like, what the? My relationship with my ex-fiance, who I mentioned, that was definitely hurt because of my obsession with work. Friendships, what are those? Because I worked nights and weekends, did I mention that? I also worked full days on weekends. I didn't go out. And this snowballs. You don't realize it at first. It creeps up on you kind of slowly. And then one day it hits you all at once and you're like, whoops, I don't have a life. Changing these workaholic tendencies is very difficult. If I were to go back and do it all over again, here's what I would do differently. First, I would have set working hours and I would respect them. Especially when you're just starting out building your freelancing business. It's really easy to say, well, I'm a new business owner, I have to work longer hours. Yes and no. This is how it all starts, I'm telling you. Now, might you need to work a few extra hours? Yes, especially if you are trying to build your business while you're still working a full-time job, which I have a video on. But you should still have a clear stop time for your workday and you should respect it. So if freelancing is your full-time gig, then at 5 or 5:30 p.m. or whatever, you stop. You close your computer, you stop checking email, you are done. If you are building your business on the side of a full-time job, maybe you work until 6:30, at which point you are done. You have to set boundaries, something else I have a video on, or you are going to get trampled by yourself and by others. Second, I would have charged more. When I was first building my freelancing business, I had horrible imposter syndrome, something I talk about in this video. I was very insecure, and I still had undiagnosed anxiety and depression. Got a video on that too. All of this equated to a mindset of, this is all I'm worth. I got to adjust the camera just a little bit because of the sun coming in here. Ooh. All right, not perfect, but it's better. So guess what happens when you're charging very little for your work? The only way to make up for it is to work more. Don't do what I did and put yourself in the position where you are working like a dog and still not making the money that you want to be making. This is a really difficult hole to dig yourself out of. Third, I would have gone to therapy sooner, or I would have just made more of an effort to get out of my own head and talk to other people more. I'm an introvert, big time. I have always been a lone wolf. This is just how I am. I've tried to force myself to be a social butterfly. It does not work. I end up giving myself horrible anxiety. Being an introvert makes it even easier to become a workaholic and vice versa. Those two traits create the perfect storm. I lived in my computer. Again, this snowballs and it gets out of control. I've only started taking my friendships seriously, and I'm embarrassed to say this, but recently, like very recently, it hit me all at once. I am 34 and I have very few friends. And what's really crazy about that is that since moving to Vegas, and largely because of performing, I have met hundreds of people. I know a ton of people. But in terms of people I could call up and kind of shoot the breeze with, friends, I don't have many of those. So I started putting myself out there. It was uncomfortable, but I did it. I actually texted someone, a woman that I know, and I invited myself over to her house to hang out. And I'm so glad I did, because we had a great time. We had coffee, and she ended up texting me later on and said, let's do it again. And I was like, oh my God, I have a friend. I also made a point of telling some of my online friends, who I've never met before, how much they mean to me. Even though we're in different states, sometimes we're in different countries, their friendship still matters. It's still real. But I do want to highlight friends that are in your immediate area that you can actually see face to face. I think with social media, we've lost some of the magic of face-to-face relationships. Go out with people, or if you're, very uncomfortable out in public, invite them over to your house. Don't wait to prioritize these relationships like I did. Fourth, I would have done this way sooner. I would have adopted a mentality of, what's the worst that could happen? In the past, everything for me was potentially catastrophic. What if I didn't land that client? Didn't immediately respond to that email? Didn't finish that blog? The world was going to explode. Except it never did. I can guarantee that none of my clients have ever panicked over their work like I have. What's the worst that could happen? Asking yourself this question is going to be especially helpful when it's getting later into the evening and you should be stopping your work, but you have a lot more to do. Guess what? There's always going to be more work. It can wait. It can wait until tomorrow or till Monday. What's the worst that's going to happen? Nothing. Nothing is going to happen. This is something I have to constantly remind myself, especially when I'm getting ready to unplug for the night, because if I don't, I could easily stay at my computer and work all night. That feels very natural for me. In fact, when I'm having a hard time stopping, I will tell my husband, I'll tell Otto, I'm having a hard time stopping. And he will come into my office and he'll say, you're done. Not fixating on everything that could go wrong. This is something I've worked really hard at, and I'm getting better at it, and it's so worth it. And now, having some perspective, I can tell you, I can reassure you, all of the catastrophic things you're imagining happening to your freelancing business, they're probably never going to happen. Nothing horrible has ever happened to my business. I have never screwed up so bad that I caused unfixable damage. Things like that just don't frequently happen, and in many of our cases, they're not going to ever happen. I already made the mistake once of putting my business before, at the time, my partner, my relationship, and I got a taste of that myself because, like I said, he was also building a business, and it was never anything intentional, like where we were trying to ignore the other person, but ultimately, you end up fixating on one thing and forgetting about your relationship. And looking back on it, it's sad. It makes me sad. There were times when I know he wanted to hang out and I said, no, I have to work. What's the worst that could happen? Okay, your business is not going to collapse because you called it a day at 5:30 when you could have worked until 7. Your freelancing business is not going to collapse because an email came in at 9 p.m. and you waited until the next morning to respond. Your freelancing business is not going to collapse because a client asked you to attend a Zoom meeting that you have no reason to attend and you really want to tell them no. It's okay. What's the worst that's going to happen? Probably nothing. Nothing is more important than your health, your happiness, and your relationships. No client, no amount of money, nothing. Financially, I'm very far ahead of where I used to be, and I can say that money does make my life easier because it brings you more choices and more control and freedom. Here's an example, real quick. My dog, Peanut the Chihuahua, Peanut Butter Grant, he has like 5 teeth left. This week, I took him in to get his yearly dental, his yearly cleaning, and they were like, oh, we have to pull 3 more teeth. His bill ended up being $800. I started having flashbacks to like the days when $800 would have absolutely crushed me for a couple months. But then I kind of like transitioned into that, okay, $800 really? Like it's annoying, but I swiped my card and an hour later I had forgotten about it. It was fine. 5 years ago, this would have destroyed me. So money is cool. But you know what money doesn't compensate for? Loneliness and sickness. A successful and profitable freelancing business will mean nothing to you if you are miserable in every other area of your life. In fact, if anything, you're going to resent your business. So don't let yourself get consumed by work. This is something I'm super passionate about, and I'm still a work in progress. I don't have it all figured out, but I love talking about it. I talk about it all the time with my Revenue Spark students because it is that important. I used to follow the hustle culture school of thought. I wanted to be a boss babe. Yes, queen. Slay. Unleash your inner female CEO. And we're moving again because of the sun. Now I don't live to work. I work to live. I work to support myself and contribute to my family's financial future. I still love working, but work is not my life, and it might be nice to retire or semi-retire a little early even. What I will say is that I'm still obsessed with my program because I've found over the years that being able to help other freelancers go about this better than I did is so fulfilling, and it gives me a sense of purpose and like I know why I'm here. One of the reasons I'm on this planet is to hopefully help people like you. It's hard work, but it's very worth it. I'm not going to teach you how to hustle. I won't promise to make you a millionaire. I'm going to teach you how to build a business that serves you and one that adds to your life as opposed to taking away from it. And it's going to be a business that you build on your own terms, no one else's. If this sounds like something you might be interested in, I'm going to drop the link below to my program, Revenue Spark. You can view the full curriculum, check out a few testimonials, and if you think you might be interested in taking the next step, that would mean booking a call to speak with me. I hope you found this video helpful. Be sure to drop me a comment and let me know what you think. If you have any questions, just give me a shout, and I'll see you in the next video.